just because I think about sales all the time. I look around my home and I think there are thousands of things in this one room, let alone in my whole home, that I have purchased, whether it was by the influence of someone else, a direct sales conversation, a recommendation, something that I just knew I needed and searched for. Like there's things happening with sales everywhere we go. And if now you can't unsee it, you'll hear this episode and you'll be driving down the road and you'll be thinking like, someone bought that. I should buy that. That's interesting. I want that.
Before we dive in, let me tell you about the book that started a podcasting revolution, Make Every Podcast Want You. It is not just a bestseller, it is a 2-time gold medalist, baby. This book is your ultimate guide to landing dream podcast interviews, building authority authentically, and making your voice the one they remember. If you've got a message and a mission, this is your mic drop moment. Grab your copy today in the link below and step into the spotlight that you were born for. Welcome to the Crown Yourself podcast, where together we build your empire and transform your subconscious stories about what's possible for your business, body, and life. I'm your host, Kimberly Spencer, founder of crownyourself.com, and I'm a master mindset coach, best-selling author, TEDx speaker, known to my clients as a game changer. Each week, you get the conscious leadership strategies you need to help you reign with courage, clarity, and confidence so that you too can make the income and impact you deserve. Imagine this podcast as your royal invitation to step into your full potential and reign in your divine purpose. Your sovereignty starts here, and your reign is now. Hello and welcome back to the Crown Yourself podcast. I am your host, Kimberly Spencer, and I am so excited to have Justine Beauregard, the host of Why You Hate Sales, an expert sales coach who is all about how to sell with integrity and soul. And that is why I think she is such a valuable guest for this audience, because y'all have the best hearts. Like, you have such good hearts. And I truly believe that when good-hearted, mission-minded, purpose-driven people make more money, just in general, we will have a better world. And so, Justine, welcome to the Crown Yourself podcast.
Thank you so much. It's amazing to be here.
So first and foremost, why do we hate sales? Why is this thing so hard for so many good-hearted, conscious entrepreneurs?
Well, I think the reason we hate sales is because we don't see sales for what it actually is, which is a neutral skill, right? We are sort of peppered with all of this messaging and all of these examples of sales that don't feel in alignment with who we are and how we want to sell. And we take them as the models of success. And so we're trying to find a way to match who we are with the models that we're seeing, and they're not done well. And so instead of seeing it as, okay, sales is a neutral skill, how do I build this skill in my way? We look to all these examples that we see. And I'm not just talking about mainstream media and like ads you see on television. I'm also talking about your experience at the grocery store or buying furniture. Like all these small examples, and even people around you in your life trying to sell you their ideas. A lot of it feels pushy and pressure filled and out of alignment and integrity. And so we start to question, if we do it a different way, maybe it won't be as effective. Maybe it won't work for us as well. And all these other examples are working so well. All these other people are making lots of money. So I guess I have to fit that mold. And my response to that is, you do not. Let's do it differently.
I deeply believe that everybody has their own unique way of selling. Like we were talking about before we started recording, like my 3 or 4-year-old now has an impeccable ability to sell. Like he literally sat down on the couch, and normally at night I'll have like 2, maybe 3 pieces of chocolate, but sometimes I don't finish it. And sometimes, like, it's a kind of a gross habit, but like I will leave like a half piece of chocolate on the table because I'm just so tired. And by then, like, my daughter's woken up and I need to take her to bed. And one day my son found it, and I see him sitting on the couch. The piece of chocolate is right next to him. And he looks at me, he goes, "Mommy, you want to share with me? I found your chocolate. I was like, "Well, yeah, I'm not going to eat it in the morning." And he's very keen on eating it. It's like totally sold me on how he could have chocolate in the morning.
Yeah. Amazing that he sold you, because my kid would have just walked by, swiped it, ate it, and said nothing. And I would have been like, where's that chocolate? I was saving it. I was getting a cup of tea. I was coming right back.
Right? I think, and that's the skill set of children, like they naturally, just having raised, like in the process of raising three, persuasion is an evolution that happens with kids. They're trying to figure out how to get a reaction out of you. And the same is true, like as we build up these skill sets in youth, how do we see sales modeled, or when it are formative sales in our world, when we're sold on something that really impacts how we start selling in our businesses? Because 95% of what we do is a subconscious program. So like, what are those things that you have seen in your coaching practice that people pick up along the way that really stops them from applying a strong persuasion strategy when they are in business?
Yeah, there are so many. I mean, we're inundated with examples of sales. Small examples, like a sign that you read that's telling you something, right? And I think about this kind of thing a lot, not to go down the rabbit hole, but I'll be at a stop sign and I'll just be thinking, there's no one around. Why wouldn't I just go? But I read the sign and I'm sold on the idea that it's safer for me to stay there and wait and look and go, right? Though that's a micro example of you're being sold the idea of safety in mass. And if we all follow the same rules, we'll get to the right place in the right time safely, right? And we're sold on what we want to eat and how we want to look just by images we see. Nobody's even saying anything. You read a magazine, you sell yourself on the idea of looking more like the person in the magazine, buying that top, or you like something, you're influenced by it. There's so many examples every single day. I mean, it's the amount of times you blink, you don't think about it, but it's happening all the time around you. And then there's other examples that are much more obvious and you're much more aware of them. Like you're driving by and there's a sign that says 2-for-1 coffee at the local coffee shop. And that's obviously sales messaging, right? Or, you might need to buy a couch and you go into a furniture store and someone walks up to you and asks you what you're looking for and if they can help you. And then it begins a sales conversation. Or a car dealership. Like there's so many things. And what I find so interesting as well is, just because I think about sales all the time, I look around my home and I think there are thousands of things in this one room, let alone in my whole home, that I have purchased, whether it was by the influence of someone else, a direct sales conversation, a recommendation, something that I just knew I needed and searched for. Like there's things happening with sales everywhere we go. And if now you can't unsee it, you'll hear this episode and you'll be driving down the road and you'll be thinking like, someone bought that. I should buy that. That's interesting. I want that.
I should probably stop at a stop sign. Please do, by the way. Please at least adhere to roadside safety laws for all our sakes.
Especially if you're listening to this podcast and a stop sign is approaching while you're driving.
Yes, please do. And notice where you're being sold. And I think one of the things, having gone through neurolinguistic programming training and becoming a master coach, and that being so hyper aware of language. There was one sign, and I forget where, I think I was in an airport somewhere. And it was a sign for like, don't regret not having that bite. And I was like, what? The subconscious mind doesn't pick up negatives. It's a 2-step process. And I was like, wow. So it's like conditioning you to take that bite, but B, have guilt afterward, because that's the persuasive language that's going on. And I think when we can start to learn how we're being persuaded, whether it's just an internal thing or like an external circumstance, like a stop sign, of like, there's an idea that we're being sold on collectively that we need to buy into. What are the ones that you see that are like top 5 that stymied a business owner's growth in their sales?
Well, I will tell you too, there's actually a framework that the CIA and the FBI and all these government organizations use for persuasion and manipulation techniques.
Well, you're speaking my language now. Let's
It's
go.
so easy to remember this because it's an acronym and I love acronyms. So it's the RICE acronym to just keep this in mind. It's 4 categories. So you have rewards, you have ideology, you have coercion, and you have ego. So I want you to think about all the instances in which someone is either offering you a reward or coercing you to do something or playing on your ideology and things that you deeply believe in and identify with or stroking your ego. And it happens all the time, every day. There's multiple examples of it. And so I like to run through that acronym in my brain as I move throughout my day, like, oh, that was interesting. And now here's the really interesting, like layered part to that. Each one, they're not listed in order of effectiveness. Each one has its own kind of level of effectiveness. The least effective of the 4, do you want to guess what it is?
Version?
Yeah, coercion, because it damages trust. Because when you coerce someone, they might do it one time, but then they don't trust you. And you've lost all the goodwill with that person. And so once you're coerced, it's like, the classic movie Taken. Everyone knows it. Liam Neeson, we've taken your daughter. It's like, I will do anything to get her back, but I will never put her in a situation in which she could be taken again, or you could put my family in danger again. Like that creates a barrier, right? And the most effective, do you want to guess what that one is?
I would say rewards.
It's actually ideology by a landslide.
Really?
Yeah.
You know, having a longer think on it, I can see why that could be, but I'd love for you to explain why is it ideology
Yeah.
versus
Because
rewards?
it's an internal motivator.
The intrinsic
So
motivation, yeah.
a reward is an external motivation as well as ego. Those ones are kind of tied for the middle. I would say reward slightly outweighs ego depending on what situation and vice versa. But ideology is I identify as this person or I see myself in this specific way. And when you play on that, like, you hear a lot of messaging, especially in Facebook ads.
Mhm.
You're someone who. You're someone who runs a business and cares about being in integrity. You want a better way to sell? I can teach you that, right? I'm attaching my method of selling with someone else's identity. And
Mhm.
that's going to motivate them to go, I am someone who values that. Now, we can use it as I just did in a positive way. You can also use it in a negative way. Like, you don't want to regret not having that last bite, right? That is potentially a negative with the ideology. You're someone who doesn't want to waste food. You want to come in, you want to, get this treat that we're selling you. There's so many ways you can shift it and use it. But I love thinking of that acronym in sales in life and just thinking like, that's interesting. Which one are they kind of playing to and where are they moving? Where are they trying to move me from
And
a psychological perspective?
oh, I love that. That makes so much sense. I am just thinking to just the past few days, we switched my eldest son from doing homeschool, which was like a pain, and felt like there was a lot of coercion
Yeah.
in that space into an online school that was scientifically backed and is gamified. My gosh, the difference in how he's approaching it because he loves rewards and he's the type he loves getting trophies, he loves getting the accolades, he identifies as a smart person. So when he is going and getting 100% and 100% and feels like he is accomplishing these micro accomplishments, he woke up and started school at 7 a.m. just because he could. And it's so interesting seeing that psychological shift in him and how that like now he is sold on the idea of school, which is really, really cool.
Yeah. And as a parent, you take that win. You're like, listen, I don't want him to always get the dopamine hits and always be rewarded for everything.
Hmm.
But in the right settings, how important is it that you're making something that he would otherwise dread and try to avoid into something that he wakes up early for and actually pays attention to? And that's magical.
Yeah, and I think when we see sales done negatively, just in looking through and kind of scrolling through my history of sales in a negative sense, I think what the combination of two that I found to be the most dangerous, I would say, would be ideology tied with coercion. So when you tie a negative ideology of you don't want to be this person tied with a little like just hint of coercive technique, which I would translate into being more manipulation
Yes.
in a way, then there is that breakdown of a little bit of trust, but there's that regret after buying from, which is why like I never like I put a deadline of like there's only so much time that I have for working with one-on-one clients, so there actually is a limitation. But I've never been like, you have to buy right now, and if this offer expires in 20, those sort of coercive urgency tactics. And I know urgency is a part of sales. How do we ethically integrate urgency into the sales conversations without feeling like it's going into coercion?
Yeah. Instead of coercion, context. That's the swap. So when you get context from a buyer of what's important to them, what they care about, what's motivating them, you can pair internal and external motivations together, right? And so for me, I'm always marketing to their internal urgency and then selling to their external urgency. So I'm speaking about, you've got sales conversations happening all the time that aren't closing. We want to fix that, right? So that's the internal motivator. Like, I know I have something here that needs to be adjusted. And then it's, okay, well, when's your next one? It's tomorrow. Okay, so you need to get in my program today so that we can fix that before your call tomorrow. That becomes an external motivator. So we're blending these together, but you have to grab the context from the prospect. When I was taught how to sell years and years ago, I've been teaching sales for 20 years. When I was first taught how to sell, we did an activity that everybody does when they go through proper sales training at some point, which is sell me this pen. And you've seen this in Wolf of Wall Street, so many different examples, but basically, when you give someone a pen who's inexperienced with selling and you say, sell me this pen, everybody does the same thing. We follow the instincts of what we see as sales, what we perceive as good selling. So we go, you're going to love this pen. It writes like a dream. The ink is gorgeous. It fits in your hand perfectly. It's affordable. We actually have a 2-for-1 special going on right now. Now, the person that you're talking to, this is where context is really important, might be a pencil person. They might never use pens. So you're selling to the wrong person. They're never going to buy from you. They might not even want to buy pens as gifts because they're such a person enamored of pencils that they're not going to be giving anyone pens. Like, they're just anti-pen. You might be selling blue ink only, and they are a black ink exclusive pen writer, right? And so
That's me.
same. And so you have to grab that context to understand. If someone says, sell me this pen, I'm like, do you need a pen? That's my first question. Like, do you even need a pen? Do you want a pen? Are you in the market for a pen? Like, what are you looking for? I'm trying to figure out matching what you're looking for with my offer. It might not be as direct as, do you need a pen? My question might be like, okay, so when's the last time you used a writing instrument? And they might say, well, I don't know, like yesterday probably, or this morning. Okay. What one did you choose? Are you more of like a pencil person, a pen person? Yeah, I use a pen. Okay, interesting. Do you have a preference on ink? I don't know. Maybe black, I guess. Oh, would you be open to blue ink? Yeah, I think I would be. Okay, well, then I have something for you, right? But when I'm hearing things, and very quickly we can disqualify someone, and I think that's another really important point to make, is it's okay to not sell. It's okay to figure out when someone's not a fit and say, I'm not the one for you. And the sooner you do it, the better it is for everybody. But we're sort of afraid to ask those questions and have it be a no because it's a missed opportunity. But what I always say is, that wasn't your opportunity. That was someone else's opportunity. The person who's selling exclusively black ink pens and you're selling blue ink pens, like, you should want them to find their person because there's lots of people who love your pens and they're not for you. And one of my favorite stories is how the David sculpture was crafted, which
Yes.
is, how was this made? And the answer was, I took away everything that wasn't David. It wasn't, I saw a block of marble and I started carving to make it look the way I wanted it to look. It was, I took away everything that wasn't already there as David. That is what sales is. It's chipping away. The context gives you clarity. It chips away at all the little pieces that aren't David. So by the end of the sales conversation, you look at the statue and you go, how beautiful. But if you're sitting there chipping away and going, I've got to make someone's face, and you're trying to get it right, it's going to be a hot mess. And you're both going to be exhausted and it's not going to work. And that's what a lot of people do.
I think sales and dating are so intimately tied. And I say this as someone who used to be like the runaway bride type, where there would be certain aspects of myself that I would hide or diminish in order to please somebody else. And I see that happen with people in sales and business owners when they're like, oh, well, we can extend this, or we can do this extra offering, or here's this extra thing that I don't really do that's okay. And believe me, I did this too in my first few years of business. I was so new and unsure of my ability as a coach that in addition, I was like, well, I got to have something like tangible. So I would build their website. And I can do a nice Squarespace site. Clients who I did that for, like, they still have it. And they're like, oh, it still works, it still converts, it's still nice. But that wasn't in my zone of genius. And I
Yeah.
think one of the things with sales is when you can find your rhythm in your space of your zone of genius and making sure that your zone of genius is what you're selling, not just like, here's these other things that I can do because of an insecurity, because I feel like I need to do this in order to X, Y, and Z versus I'm going to strip away everything that's not like the authenticity of the offer and like the beauty of the offer that I have there in front of me, and really fully backing and trusting that your offer is good enough as it is.
I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head there, which is the perception and value of your own offer. One of the
Right.
principles of selling that I teach is never be outsold. And that doesn't come from a place of ego and my offer is the best and nobody's going to be able to unsell me or outsell me. It is coming from a place of true and full belief in what you sell as valuable. I've seen people compare themselves to others constantly of, well, I have to add more things because so and so adds more things. And I'm like, so and so adds more things because they don't see the value of the core offer. Even yesterday, I was having a conversation with a woman who wanted to sell these guided meditations. And she's like, I don't know, I feel like maybe I need to add more to the offer, more than just, a 20-minute guided meditation. I said, what are you charging? She said, $10. I said, $10 for a guided meditation. And she goes, yeah, but you could buy an app for a month with unlimited guided meditations for $10. And I said, but here's what you're not seeing. You're not seeing the fact that someone who gets the app for $10 now has to go spend a lot of time filtering through thousands of meditations to find the right one. And they don't even know if they're going to get a guaranteed outcome from that guided meditation. Whereas you are saying, pay me this one time, this amount, and I will guarantee you this outcome from this guided meditation. And here's all the proof of what I've done for 20 years, building these skills to make sure that you walk away with this result. First of all, $10 is undervaluing
So
what you're
much.
giving. And also comparing yourself to an app, it's like comparing yourself to something completely different from you. Like that's not the same thing. And there's a book that's called Retention Point, and it's all about finding that one core thing that everything else might pop out of, right? But it's like that one seed of your offer, that thing that people come to you for. And this was one of my hardest lessons to learn in business. And I've had my company for 11 years. And when I started, I had 30 offers and I added everything to those offers beyond, above and beyond. When you were saying I added a website, I'm like, you picked like one of the hardest, most time consuming things to do, which is why I was laughing, because I built websites
Yep.
for people as well. I built a website from scratch for a Swiss aesthetics company, like a legitimate multi-million dollar. I had no experience building websites at all. And I was like, sure, I can do that because I wanted to make money. And
Mhm.
I made thousands and thousands of dollars. And it was the worst job I ever took. But I was trying to get experience and close sales and do whatever it took. And at the time, I don't regret anything, just like you don't with the websites. Everything got me to where I am today. But now, when people ask me, it's really interesting, the shift, because I have pared down my offers so much. Instead of doing multiple calls a week and workshops and guest coaches and like all these things that I used to have in my programs, it's now just access to me in perpetuity in a group setting with a portal of resources and proven frameworks. And that's all I give people. And when I say to people the price of my offer, they go, "Is that per month?" And I go, "No, that's the cost of the offer." It's the opposite effect of what it used to be, which was, is that a one-time fee versus it used to be monthly and I would offer 10 times more. And now they're saying, do I have to pay monthly because it's so good?
Mhm.
And they don't. And that's where everything kind of changes when you really nail the thing that you're the best at and the thing that you can stand behind and say, I guarantee you're going to get results from this. And it doesn't take much. And in fact, to your point about dating, if I were to tell you, I'm going to help you find your perfect partner and get married and be blissfully happy for the rest of your life in one single dating session of coaching, people would be lined up for miles, right?
Yes.
Like you wouldn't be able to stay, like you would have to hire a team day one. I mean, that would be a wild offer. And we don't see it like that. We think, I'm going to sell you dating coaching for a year, plus all these extra courses on how you can be the best at dating, plus question sets you can bring on dates, plus role play with dates, plus speed dating event, plus this, plus that. And it's all for $49.99 a month. And it's like, you're throwing so much at it. Whereas if you just stood back and thought, what am I the best at? What could I guarantee? And that's how I tell people to niche. Niche based on your guarantee or your promised outcome and what you can confidently deliver to people. Don't niche based on people. Like, I want to serve moms who wear yoga pants and are 42 and perimenopausal and do all the things just because that's who you are and what you look like. You want to niche based on what you can guarantee so that when people come to you, they just trust and know that they're going to get that outcome.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that trust is one of the hardest skill sets that business owners and leaders build as they are coming into that space of greater visibility. And it really comes back to those belief systems, those old scarcity belief systems of plagiarized programming that are, am I enough? Am I worthy? Am I valuable? And you're priceless because, like, I joke with my clients when we have our session on sales and looking at who they are and how they want to bring in sales into their business and or sell themselves, and we really look at it through the lens of high performance persuasion, because persuasion is and influence is one of the pillars of high performance. I joke with any of my clients who's like, well, I have to sell what I'm worth. And that drives me crazy. I'm like, babe, you're not a prostitute. Like, straight up. They're like, what? And I'm like, you're not, your offer has a price point. Your product has a price point. Your services have a price point, but you as an inherent human being are priceless. Period. And when we conflate our identity with the thing that we're selling, I think that's when we get to the sticky spot in sales. I know I did, with seeing the result and tying our identity to the outcome of whether someone buys or not. When you are navigating with your clients through that funky spot of their identity is so attached to the outcome of somebody else saying yes, how do we dissect the two?
Yeah. Well, I think it's mostly difficult in the services space because technically you are selling yourself. You are selling you as the provider, and a lot of people wrap their brand in their personal brand
Mhm.
together. And I actually think it's a good thing in many ways to do that because your values as a human mirror your values as a brand. The way you deliver services and how much you care mirror how you show up for your clients. Like, there's a lot of beauty in meshing those two things together. And I actually think it goes even beyond identity in terms of pricing because we also think, there's an old story of Picasso sitting in a bar and someone walks up to Picasso and says, "Could you draw me a self portrait?" And he goes, "Of course." And 15 seconds later, he kind of looks over at the woman, draws the portrait, slides it across, and says, "That will be $60,000. And she said, $60,000? That took you less than a minute." And he said, "Ma'am, that took me 60 years." He took 60 years to perfect the skill of being able to draw a beautiful, perfectly done self portrait on the back of a napkin in under a minute. And that is what a lot of people struggle with is I can't price based on my value because that's impossible. I can't price based on the years of time and energy and effort and attention and skill building that I've poured into the company that I now have. I can't price based on the results because they differ for everyone. So how the heck do I price? Because it's all kind of convoluted. And when people ask me, I've helped people make millions of dollars in sales. Someone paid me $2,000 and closed a $70,000 deal same day. I'm like, I can't price for that to happen with every person, and some people it's even more money. It's so difficult to think about it like that. What I say for pricing, that's really simple to keep it really easy to do. Make it feel like a steal for the buyer and make it feel like the easiest thing in the world for you to sell, and make sure that you can't be outsold when you do it. So for example, and here's just a really simple exercise people can do because I find it easy when there's parameters. So when someone is struggling with their price, and you could do this with yourself or even use AI to help you go through this activity. But I will say, okay, I want to sell, let's just say I have a photography business and I want to sell portrait photography. Okay. So someone says, I'm going to sell this for, we just started any number, $1,000 for a portrait of yourself. Okay. Could you do it for less? As soon as they say yes, I go, okay, $1,000 is too high because you're going to be able to be outsold at $1,000. If everybody's saying, could you do it for less? And you could, then why wouldn't you? Right? So you have to start lower. And that makes it easy once you get it to a price point where you go, this is so easy for me to sell. Like they're going to use this portrait everywhere. They're going to love this portrait. And you're thinking about all the reasons why it's good. I tell people, make a list on a piece of paper, features on one side, benefits on the other. Write down the feature and then coincide that feature with all the list of benefits that come with it and start to sell yourself on all those benefits individually, because it will make the features feel more expensive to you and make that easier to sell. But the exercise that you would do to find this perfect price is to really just think about, okay, let's say you wanted to sell it for 1,000. You give it parameters. Could you sell it for 2, 3, 4, 5? And you keep increasing the price, or you do dramatic. This is how I like to do it. You just start off at, okay, could you sell a portrait for $10,000? No. Okay. Could you do it for $10? Yeah. Okay. So now we know these are the guideposts, 10,000 and 10. So now we go, okay, could you do it for $100? Yeah, easily. Okay. That's kind of how you get to the $1,000, is you keep kind of ratcheting it up in groups until you get to a point where there's a little hesitation. That's probably your zone where you're comfortable enough selling it. And the thing with services, it's totally unregulated. There are people, clients of mine even, who sell photography, and some of them do sessions for $10,000 and some of them do sessions for $100. And all you are capped at, I want people to listen to this, like really absorb this. The only thing capping you is your ability to not be outsold. That's it. If you can mentally get yourself to a place of belief and values alignment with a $10,000 price point, you can sell photography at a $10,000 price point. There are people doing it all over the place. So if you are capped and you want to go higher, you need to start resourcing yourself with examples of people who are doing it to prove that it's actually a viable thing to do. You have to make your list of features and benefits and sell the hell out of those benefits to yourself. So you're seeing every little thing. Now, this is also some of the secret sauce for me in never getting sales objections, because I am so sold on my offer. Like, people don't even think to ask me what it costs. They're sold before they even know what it costs. I'll get to the end of a sales call and I'll say, do you have any other questions? They'll go, I don't think so. Can you just send me the link to buy it? And I said, well, do you want to know what it costs first? And then they'll usually go, well, yeah, but whatever it is, I mean, I'm going to make it work because I need this. Right.
Yeah.
And that's what you want. But I think about so many people leading with price
Mm-hmm.
subconsciously. Actually, here's another really good but slightly unrelated story. I had a consult with a woman a couple years ago, maybe 2 years ago, and she was 25 years old. And the first question she asked me on our sales call was how old I was. And I thought it was really interesting because I'd never been asked that before. And I was like, did you mean how young I am?
Right?
But we went through the conversation. I answered her question. We went through the whole conversation. And I said, where do you think your biggest struggle is when it comes to sales? And she said, I'm going to be honest. I think it's my age. I think people don't take me seriously or think that I can deliver results because I'm only 25. And my response back to her was, I think the reason that's happening is because you have a problem with your age. And she goes, well, what do you mean? And I said, you know what the first question you asked me was on this call? She was like, I don't even remember. I said, you asked me how old I was. She goes, what? I asked you that? It was like she blacked out when she asked me the question. And I said, yeah, you asked me how old I was. And I thought it was very interesting because I've had thousands of sales calls and no one's ever asked me my age before. And then there were multiple times in the conversation where you referenced age. And so you have some subconscious belief about age being some blocker of your ability to deliver results or show up in a certain way. And even when you just said it there, you said, because I'm only 25, which is a limiting word in front of your age for no other reason than the fact that you put it there. And she was blown away. She was like, I had no idea that I even that. And I said, yeah. So that's happens a lot actually with whatever our limiting beliefs and subconscious thoughts are about our brand that we have insecurities about. We'll start to raise them early. So when you have insecurities about your pricing, the first thing you're going to start talking about is pricing. And when people start to invite pricing into the conversation, instead of being direct and clear and asserted, you start to question and get smaller and shrink yourself and follow them down that line of questioning instead of what I do when someone brings up price, or even if they do have an objection, if I'm doing a role play or something, I will always bring it back to the value.
Hmm.
When someone says, oh, it's $10,000, like, yes, like I'm not thinking anything about that. Yes, it's $10,000, right? And then that person will say, well, I don't know, it's a lot of money. It is. Yeah. That's it. Like I have no thoughts about the money and how much it is. Like I believe in the value. And then when they say, I don't know, it feels expensive. I'm always like, oh, that's so interesting. Why? Because I genuinely am like, it doesn't feel expensive to me. Like I'm really curious. And when they say, could you do it for less? No, it's you're getting $100,000 of value for 10. I am doing it for less, actually. And that's the thought. Now, my offer is not $10,000, which is really interesting because I get the opposite happening. When people think
Mm-hmm.
I am so asserted in my offer and so in belief and see the value, and other people can see the value, that when I present the price, they literally, and I said this earlier, they asked me, like, oh, is that a monthly fee? And that's where I like to sit. I like to be on sales calls. Like one of my sales calls a couple weeks ago, the woman said, I'm really annoyed. And I was like, why are you annoyed? And she's like, because you've priced it to the point where I literally have to buy it now. And I didn't want to buy more sales coaching. And I now have to because I love it so much. And I'm like, this is what I love to have happen. It's very easy for me to sell it. And that just also happens to be at a price point where I can hit my income goals easily and everything is in flow. And I've designed my business to work like that.
Hmm.
There's different reasons why we make our choices, right? And in this season of life, I demand ease. I demand efficiency. I don't want to be overcoming objections all day. I want to be in like my queendom, my energy. I want to get on a call where I feel like I am able to flow through it with such effortless ease. Now, I could choose to double, triple, or even quadruple my prices and still sell the crap out of my offers. but I wouldn't feel that level of flow and ease that I feel right now. So that's where I stay. And so you also have to give yourself the gift you're looking for. Are you looking for the ease? Are you looking for the confidence boost? Are you looking for the validation or the proof where you can price it higher and get the yes? Are you looking to elevate your brand a little or push your boundaries? That's where you get to decide how to price. But it always comes from you. It doesn't come from what other people demand of you or tell you you should price at or even what you think is acceptable. And
Yeah.
all those things that you said earlier, am I enough? Am I worthy? Those need to be your mantras. The minute you have that question, am I enough? I am enough. That becomes your mantra every day. Am I worthy? I am worthy. That becomes your mantra every day. Put it on a post-it, write it on your mirror, call Kimberly. She'll tell you you're worthy.
We'll
Like,
just work through that limiting belief if you're
that's what
not.
happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm a big fan of that.
Because I also think the ease of your sales also comes down to what you said earlier was you market to the intrinsic and the extrinsic gets worked on through the sales and through that sales conversation. But I want to circle back to that marketing to the intrinsic because I think that that's where people really get stuck because that's when you're not getting the clients that are an easy yes, when you're getting clients that like, because for my offers, like if I get a client that's like just starting out and has um no previous investments, wasn't in a high paying 6-figure corporate job prior, like they're literally not able to afford my offer. And I'm not attracting those people because of my messaging and marketing. But years ago, when I was selling a higher ticket offer, but I was getting a lot of inbound lead generation that was not qualified for my offer, there was a mismatch in the marketing. So, how do you sell in the marketing to ensure that you're getting those qualified leads coming in who are actually a fit for your offer, not for those who for those who are not a fit, both income wise with like external qualifiers and also values wise with internal qualifiers?
Yeah. I mean, I think that the RICE method from earlier is also a great set of parameters for marketing in general. Like, how do you want to reward people? What are their ideologies when they come into you? Leave the coercion aside. Maybe don't do that one.
But I think context. I love your reframe on looking at the context of how you are languaging your offer and the context in which people would be primed to come into your world and into your kingdom.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that most people are bad at selling. I'm not here to tell you, you're just learning. You're really good at sales. You just don't see it yet. No, you're bad at sales. Like, it's okay. And it's actually better when you say it out loud. Like, I suck at sales. Okay. Let's fix it now that you know. If you just say to yourself, dating example is a great example. Going back to that, like, I just suck at dating. It's like, okay, you're going to just be single forever then? You're just
Yeah.
never going to go on dates? Like, what are you going to do? You've got to fix it. Now you've recognized I'm not getting enough dates or, the dates I'm going on are with really people that I don't see myself with. That again is a marketing opportunity. Like, I listened to Layla Hormozi's podcast.
Best parenting podcast, by the way. Like, I listen to it and I listen for both leadership and for business development, but I'm also filtering through like, oh my God, I'm going to apply that to my personal life as well. Her podcast is amazing. I
Yeah,
am
it's
like,
so good.
I fangirl over her.
Yes, she's wonderful. And in one of the episodes, she talked about dating and like, we make this long list of qualifications for the people we want to date, as an example. Like, they have to be fit. They have to be wealthy. They have to have the best personality. They have to be a family person. They, have to live in a nice house. But we are 20 pounds overweight. We eat like crap. We don't spend any time with our family. We have no values. We hustle all day, every day, and never have time for ourselves. We never express gratitude. Like, it's a mismatch. We have this list of desires for our clients, but we don't show up with the same energy from the sales perspective. And that's where I think a lot of people are missing opportunities. It's the same thing with selling. If you make your list of dream qualifications, like, I only want people coming into my business as an example for Kimberly, because you just were talking about these people are coming from high-powered six-figure jobs. They're looking to find their sovereignty. They really want to, take their brand to the next level. These people are not going to respond at all to the same messaging that would make people respond who don't have those qualities. And so once you know the types of clients you want, and I'm not talking about people who binge Netflix on the weekend or eat a certain type of taco, I'm talking about what results you can deliver and what things they're looking for and what makes them actually qualified. A lot of people don't sit down with the thought of, how do I qualify someone? What does make someone a great fit for my offer? Now, there are a lot of us who sell things that could be a fit for many categories of people. And so in that case, I want you to think about your best examples, the ones that are going to be aspirational for lower level people, and the people that you can absolutely guarantee ideal results for. So for me in my business, I don't market to people who have offers over $1,000, but I do market to them subconsciously because I'm talking about having sales conversations, which you wouldn't have if you didn't sell something that was mid to high ticket. You wouldn't be talking about, high level services or elevating your sales messaging if you're selling a $49 passive product on Facebook. Like, it's a different audience. And so there's a lot of things where I think, like, where can I make the most impact? If someone sells something that's more expensive, they're going to make their ROI back day one. I want to market to that person because they're definitely going to be happy with my services and recommend me to everybody. Then a tier down from that is like, well, maybe they sell something for $500, but they have a larger audience. So they have better volume. They can play to that. Okay, how would I market to them? And this is where I teach a concept called niched content. So your content becomes niched instead of your audience becoming niched. So I tell the stories of specific clients, like the one who paid me $2,000 and sold a $70,000 offer. Someone might look at that and go, I sell something for $70,000. I feel like I should pay $2,000 and go make that sale. And then someone else is going to read that and go, $1,000, I sell something for $7,000. But they still might go, I wonder if I could sell 10, or I wonder if I could get there faster. Or they might look at that and go, that doesn't apply to me, don't resonate with it at all. And then I share another post where someone sold something for $5,000 and they might go, that's pretty close to 7. I could see myself in that story. Or maybe the fact that they were both from Illinois, or they both have web design agencies or something like that. And so we create context through our marketing as well to give examples and stories of proof. This is another thing about the Hormozis. They're big about proof and building your examples of proof instead of just talking about what you can do or even what you have done, which is better than what you can do. Talk about the things you have done well for yourself and for other people, and invite people to see the proof instead of just talking about it's show, don't tell. Instead of telling you my offer is amazing, it's the best, you're never going to find anything like it. That's what everybody says. But when I don't have to say that because I show that my client had no sales and a week later she had 4, that's showing the proof. That's not me telling you I'm a great sales coach. And I think a lot of people get that mixed up, like because of, again, full circle moment, going back to the billboard that says, we have the best coffee. You want our fries, right? And you're reading that and going, maybe I do because I'm seeing the picture and I'm hungry in this moment. But it's very rare that someone is going to do that for something that doesn't cost $2, like a coffee or fries.
I think that also speaks to the way our subconscious mind speaks, because our subconscious mind speaks in symbols and imagery. And when we can recognize that, when we paint the picture, that's why in my book, Make Every Podcast Want You, I have like how to tell your story. And Justine, you're doing a phenomenal job of like painting the picture of the results that your clients get. And so people can actually see that happening for themselves versus going on and talking about here's, your step-by-step process of all the things and how to get to your goal, but without seeing the proof. It's that age old adage, seeing is believing. And we have to be able to see those pictures in front of us to believe that we can have and achieve certain results.
And if you really want to stack this and get into a mastery level of sales, then you start with the body of proof and you back it up with the frameworks and the methodology to make it more tangible to people, because everyone wants to know, how did they do it? And people are very easily confused when we get into the description of how we do it. We're either too vague or we're too wordy. People get lost in the story a little bit. And so a lot of people will hear your story, and especially the more grandeur your story is, the less easy it is for someone to see themselves in the story. That $70,000 sales story is one where someone might go, that's not even a possibility for me, because we can only think as far as double our highest result in terms of our
Mhm.
capacity to achieve. And so when we
Ooh,
hear
say that again. I think that was such a valuable point. We can only think as far as double our highest result.
yes, in terms of our capacity to achieve. So if
Wow.
I ask you right now, like, let's say that you make $100,000 a year and I say, could you make 200,000 a year? You would say, yeah, I think I could do that. But if I say, could you make $1 million this year? You would say, no, probably not, because it's too far outside of your realm of actual possibility. You might desire that result, but the actuality of, like, would you bet your house on it? No, because you don't have the level of belief, because you lack the proof. You see examples externally and you think, okay, maybe that's possible for me, but it doesn't feel real for you and your circumstances. So when these people are marketing in an aspirational way, they're looking at it going, I want that, but my actual belief that I could have it is much lower than
Yes.
someone who's done half that amount before. And so when we're marketing some aspirational messaging, we want to make sure to back it up with the clear step by step of how to do it. And so when people, I'll give that example and then I'll say, okay, so how did we achieve that result? Number one, we created their distinctive edge. So we set them apart and put them in a category of one. So all the competition immediately became obsolete. They became the only option. Then number two, we created an objectionless offer. So what does that involve? Well, it has to feel different than what everyone else is selling. So you can't just pop up their website and have it feel like it could be 10 competitors' websites. It has to be something unique to them. It also has to be a complete solution. So we can't be selling like partial wins or little results. It has to feel like a complete solution. And it also has to be something, number three, that motivates them to want to continue working with you. And so once we get these things nailed, then what do? We go into phase three. We have our distinctive edge, we have our objectionless offer. Then from there, we develop our repeatable framework. The set of steps that we follow, the flow chart, whatever that looks like, that we move through to guarantee the same outcomes over and over again. Because once you've achieved a win, you can do it again. And
Mhm.
you have to framework it to be able to know what steps go in what order, where are scripts needed, where is certain messaging needed. And when I describe it like that, people go, that feels doable. You've basically just productized a service. You've packaged something in a way where my brain can wrap around it and go, you know what? I don't think that I'm in a category of one. I think I sound like a lot of the other people out there selling what I sell. So maybe that's the area. Or I really do have a distinctive edge already. And I think it's really clear, but my offer doesn't feel different, or something about it doesn't feel complete, or maybe expressed in a clear enough way. Or maybe I have both of those things, but every sales call is different and I don't have a repeatable framework and my wins are up and down and not happening in the way that I want. I think I need to really sit down and think about how to framework that process. Either way, they're able to kind of, like a quiz, self-select into which one am I and what would my next step be and how would I do that. I think the majority of people are actually really easily sold when we can present with proof, back it up with a process, and then be there with them to answer any questions and move them through it if needed, depending on what your offer is.
I think one of the most beautiful and like poignant things that I really want our listeners to catch on is you said self-select. And this is a huge piece in any form of coaching, is whether you are coaching your kids or you are guiding them in any form of leadership, people own what they create. And so when you have your customer, your prospect, your kid self-selecting and making those choices that guide them along the way, that then creates the value of ownership. And then they own their results, which makes them a much better customer in general, anyways, than having someone who feels resentful or regretful because they were coerced into buying something that they either didn't really need, didn't really want, or they don't fully believe and embody that it's going to be the thing that's going to help them get to that next step of where they're wanting to go. I think that self-selection and that word specifically, Justine, that you used so perfectly like sums up that what it is that you do as a sales coach and being able to guide people to support their ideal customers in that self-selection process. Because I truly believe when we all hold more ownership over our lives and our choices, we feel better. Like we just live in general a better life when we feel like we are actually have some level of sovereignty in our choices and don't feel like we're being coerced into or manipulated into something that may not be the right fit for us. But when we can truly see that result as being the only best way, that is the thing that is going to guide us into that next step. I would love to pivot into a little bit of rapid fire to wrap this up. Justine, are you down?
I'm so down. Can I add one note before we go into
Yes,
this?
please
Because
do.
I want to debunk something about sales that has been taught for years that ties exactly into what you just said, which is building that trust. And that's been kind of the whole theme of this conversation, building trust and allowing people to self select. I just want everyone to hear this. It does not need to take a long time. You can do all of those steps in under 10 minutes. You can build trust. You can allow people to self select. You can have people make decisions on their own with you. You can create rapport really quickly. A lot of people have this thought because of messaging that we've been inundated with that it takes 7 to 10 touches or 12 exposures to your brand, or you have to nurture over a certain period of time, or rapport, takes a really long time to build. You fill the space that you believe it takes. And so once you reframe that in your mind and tell yourself it doesn't take long to build trust, it doesn't take long to allow people and support them and to give them the tools to self-select. They could do it very quickly. That also will help you create a process that's much more fast paced and serving of everyone. And in fact, that's another layer of value you've created, because the longer it takes them to make a decision, the longer they have to wait for the result that you and only you are capable of providing them in the way that you do, which is the unlock for them and a win-win for everyone. And to me, that is selling at its finest. Is it's always a win-win. It's never someone's losing, someone's winning, someone's, giving money and someone's getting something. Both people are giving and both people are receiving, and it's a really beautiful exchange.
A freaking men to that. Justine, what did you first love about our conversation?
Oh my gosh, everything. Well, first of all, your energy, I love how you embody positivity and joyfulness and how you show up, and I just the way you frame things for your audience and how every question is so thoughtful and in pursuit of their dreams and goals being fulfilled. It's not, let's just talk about what we've done or how things work as a concept. It's how do we actively apply this? And there were so many little moments throughout the conversation where I felt like if I were a listener, I would feel so blessed to be gifted this episode to learn those little things and start to have those shifts in awareness to get closer to the goal, because ultimately we design our businesses to be in support of the gifts that we have been bestowed and people who are meant to receive them. And when we can align those things, it's a beautiful thing. And so, like, just the whole thing, really.
Amazing. And Justine, you have just bestowed so many gifts upon us. I want to bestow our audience with the gift of just a little bit of rapid fire, because I love putting my guests
Yeah,
just a
let's do it.
little bit in the hottie seat, as they say in the dames.
Yes.
So who is your favorite female character in a book or a movie, and why?
Who is my favorite female character? I have a lot of trouble picking favorites. The one that is coming to mind, though, is probably Kate Winslet's character Iris from The Holiday, which is one of my favorite movies. I watch it every holiday season.
Love it.
And what I love about her was that she started off very much like I did in life and in sales and in business, like very unsure of myself, feeling like everyone was being picked but her, and then chose herself and took a risk and flew off to California, like out of country, did this totally unique experience, gifted that to herself, and then came into her own and found the things she was looking for internally and externally. And just, I don't know, that whole story just, it felt very different to my life, but also very similar in so many ways. And I love how empowered she ended up being and really was like the core and the leader of that whole story, even though so many other people had the personalities of a
Uh-huh.
leading lady or a leading actor. She really took it, stole the show, and I loved it.
I completely agree. I love her in that role. Like I love Kate Winslet pretty much in any film that she does.
I love her.
Love her. What person, alive or alive in their time, would you want to trade places with just for a day to be in their body, see how they thought, live a day in their life?
Mm. I would pick Brene Brown. I feel like she has 2 kids, I have 2 kids. She's a writer, I'm a writer. Her circle, like, every time I hear her in an interview, she's hanging out with Adam Grant and Simon Sinek, and I'm like, "Ugh, to be at dinner with them would be so cool." Christina Tozzi, like, all these really cool, unique, vibey people, and the way she thinks is just so different and magical, and she's shifting paradigms, and she's changing people's lives. I would love to, and she's funny and real. I feel like she would just have a blast in her life, and it would be easy and no low pressure and just fun. Good vibes.
Amazing. What is your money routine?
My money routine. Okay. So there's a woman. Her name is Tiffany Aliche. Have you heard of her?
I have not.
She's fabulous. Okay.
I will look her
She
up. We will put her in
has
the show notes.
Yes, please link her because she's wonderful. She has a show on Netflix. She has a book that she's published. I'm pretty sure she has a podcast or she's been on podcasts because that's where I learned about her. And she teaches something called your spending plan versus your budget. And I became obsessive about this idea because everything that we're taught about money always felt very restrictive to me. Like you have to have a budget, you have to save for things, you have to cut back on expenses. And hers is very expansive thinking, which is, I'm so excited to go to Europe next year. What's that going to involve? How can I create a spending plan for that? And so it's all about like, how could I make more? How could I, do something differently? It's about shifting. And so that has reshaped how I think about money. And then also the book, You're a Badass at Making Money.
Yeah.
And when she says, the more money in the hands of good people does more good in the world, that changed everything about how I think about money as well. And so when I wake up and think, I want to make so much money, it's instead of being like it's coming from a self-serving place or a desire to have more for me, it is coming from a place of that means that so many people in the world are learning how to sell in a feel-good, authentic way, and they're doing it in alignment with their values and their mission, and they're getting out so much more to so many more people. Like, so I try to think about money in those ways, and obviously investments and other things, but that's boring. Everybody does that.
See, you think that everybody does that, but surprisingly, so many people don't, or they don't think of those ways to not just create money and not just keep money in like savings, but to like multiply it and truly create
Mm.
generational wealth. And I think that that's something that I'm so excited in this next evolution of like building an empire beyond just, your business, like what truly is that generational standard that you can set to change the course of your family's history. And that's why I can completely agree with you in getting more money into the hands of good-hearted, mission-minded, purpose-driven people because they do more good with it. What do you define to be your queendom?
Very much at home within myself. And so it sort of begins there, right? And then it slowly ripples I think my queendom is me in my being and body. And then I allow that to touch. It's almost like, when I'm touching the life of somebody, they're brought into my queendom, but it's also not forever and it's not theirs to keep. Especially as I think about as a mother with my children, like they're in my queendom right now, very much so. They're actually encroaching on my queendom a little bit. And that's okay because they add so much beauty and love and joy to my queendom. But eventually it always ends up coming back to just me in my sovereignty. So I allow them in and it's part of it, but it's usually very, very tight circles. My queendom is not Taylor Swift's queendom.
Leslie, what does it mean to crown yourself?
I think it's just gratitude every day, just gratitude, little moments, doesn't have to be a big thing. A lot of the time, my gratitude is just for clean water and food on the table and safety. Like I have so much privilege. And so I try to be mindful of that privilege, but it really is just that there's so much if you look around, and it's not about comparison of, oh, I have more than people who don't, or, something like that. A lot of people, I think, look outwardly for that, and I look inwardly for the gratitude. What do I have in this moment? How do I feel in this moment? Who am I in this moment? There's a lot of gratitude for what I've learned and who I am and what I know and things around me in a very immediate way allows me to I can see myself like gratitude is picking up the crown and putting it on.
Heck yeah. Justine, I have loved our conversation. I have so much gratitude for you being here on the Crown Yourself podcast. I know we can go to sellwithjustine.com. We can follow you in all the places at Sell with Justine. And my favorite, listen to your podcast, Why You Hate Sales. Is there any other place or space or gift that you have for our audience that you think would serve them in taking that next level and in like really seizing and appointing themselves as queen of sales for their own empire that they are building?
Well, if you were listening to this and you were intrigued by the framework I described of finding your distinctive edge, creating your objectionless offers, and building that framework for repeatable results, I actually have a great freebie. It's a 4-video series that is walking you through all of those stages and what they look like in more detail and depth so you can start to create them for yourself. And that is just at standoutseries.com. So you can go through all 4 videos in under 20 minutes and have a really good idea of how to set yourself apart and be a leader in your space.
Amazing. Justine, I absolutely love how you teach people to sell. Thank you for what you do. And as always, my fellow sovereigns, make sure to follow Justine in all the places, gather her wisdom, and take that step, like truly appoint yourself as worthy of making more money and making those sales. Because just like for me, I always picture if someone is not receiving what I have to offer and I'm not actively putting myself out there, then somebody maybe with not as much integrity or not as much certifications or skill sets or wisdom or all the things, like somebody may not be able to serve them as well. And like I would be doing such a disservice to them if I don't sell. So go out there, make those sales. You got this. As always, my fellow sovereigns, own your throne, mind your business, because your reign is now. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If what you heard resonated with you, be sure to subscribe and start creating a bigger impact now by sharing this with a friend. Just by doing that one simple act of kindness, you are creating a royal ripple to support more people in their sovereignty. And if you're not already following on social media, connect with me everywhere at crownyourself.now for more inspiration. I am so excited to connect with you in the next episode. And in the meantime, go out there and create a body, business, and life that rules. Because today, you crown yourself.